Now, of course, with this being the second season, there are going to be some shakeups, but let's go ahead and start on a high note. I have these 2 commission builds behind me. They're for 2 kids for Christmas, so let's make sure they're all good to go, so that way when they open them on Christmas Day, they can just plug them in and start playing. This is your friendly reminder, don't get scammed when you're building PCs. The Aqua 5 right here needed an activated copy of Windows. Obviously, I didn't have one on hand, so I went to buy one. I did end up turning around and getting another product key from a different site. I'll link that one down in the description if you guys need product keys so this doesn't happen to you. Thankfully, I did pay through PayPal. I opened up a Coral. Oh, what's the word? They sent me the script. I'll show you guys like right here on the screen. This is really shady. I would get more work done tonight. However, it's our anniversary, so I gotta go. I should probably change first. All right, well, that's much better. I will see you guys in a few days. So not only do we get our other half of the $1,600, but in the past few days since I last talked to you guys, I also picked up some pretty sweet deals. I'm gonna lay those out real quick for you. We have the Gigabyte 1060 6GB model, followed up by the Asus Challenger RX 5600 XT 6GB model. And then on the high end, we have the Gigabyte 1080 Ti 11GB model. And then besides those GPUs, I also got this Cooler Master case with a 500 watt power supply for only $25. It'll be pretty cool for like a cheap, super budget build, maybe with one of those 6GB cards. I'm yet to decide what we're building today. But then I also got this 550 bronze from EVGA as well. So I think I finally decided what we're doing today. That only leaves one thing left, and that is to flip it and stick it. Now, of course, like any other good technician, I went ahead and whipped together this test bench. So while we wait to see if this thing actually boots, why don't I tell you about the parts? So for the GPU, we have a GTX 1080 Ti 11GB model paired with, hey, it booted! Paired with a Ryzen 7 5800X on a B550 Prime motherboard from ASRock, and it's all being juiced up by an EVGA bronze 600 watt power supply. So now that we know all of our parts actually work together, we can go ahead and get started on this build. Before we do that though, shout out to someone who commented on the last video. This time around, it's going to go ahead and be Silber Nestle 67 asking what tools I use. For the most part, I only use one tool, which is the Fantic Nex E1 Mox. It's an electric precision screwdriver. You see it in pretty much all of my videos. If you also want a chance to get shouted out on an episode of Brick by Brick, just ask a question. Of course, I'm going to answer every question in the comment section. However, I'll pick my favorite one and I'll go ahead and answer it on camera. I'm typically not a huge fan of used PC cases just because of how disgusting they can be. However, I think this one from Cooler Master has a lot of potential, so I'm gonna go ahead and crack open a few of these C12CS fans from Thermalright and get this guy fanned up. So now that we're done with the build, we have to go ahead and test it before we can get it listed. Luckily though, that's exactly what I've done. So on our firmware, we got 153 on the low end with 169 on the high end. That left us with 163 average on the 1080p test burnout. And then after that, I went ahead and did a single and multi-core test on Cinebench. So for the single core, I ended up getting a 1532, which is really solid, especially for gaming. And then for the multi-core, I ended up with a 14155, which the CPU was like almost perfect silicone. But moving on to the games. In the in-game benchmarking test on Cyberpunk 2077 with the low preset, we ended up getting 140. Fortnite with the pro settings, we got about 240 FPS on average. With Valorant, we tested on high settings, averaging about 350 FPS. It's listed and we've already gotten an offer. However, that offer was for a 1911 handgun, so enough being said about that. However, big news for Brick by Brick. Tomorrow, I do have a meeting with someone. I'm going to be buying a postal skill from them, so we're finally going to be able to start selling on eBay and Jawa now that we have made a decent chunk of change. Obviously, Jawa and other online marketplaces do have fees included, so on Facebook Marketplace, I have this listed for about $750. However, for places like Jawa, I'm going to be listing this one for about $800. Even with the extra $50, we're actually losing more in fees and making less money overall. However, it is a much broader audience. So for now on going forwards, these PCs are also going to be linked down below on my Jawa account for you guys to buy if you're at all interested. Hey, it's me from the future. So a day after I built this PC right here, I realized I had a lot of really low-end parts. So I decided, let's go ahead and throw together a super budget build with the case that we got earlier in this episode. So it's packing a Ryzen 5 1600 along with an RX 580 8GB model. The reason I didn't record the build process of this was it's a super low-end machine. I didn't think it'd be very interesting. However, what is interesting is the fact that it sold in like a day or two. So we're actually supposed to be meeting up like right now as this video is dropping, which is pretty cool. Sadly though, that means I don't get to show you guys if I actually manage to sell it or not. But that just means you'll have to watch the next episode of Brick by Brick. All right, so I guess that's just about everything for this episode. So if you guys had anything you want me to know, want me to not do again, anything like that, go ahead and let me know. I'm always trying to make this better for all of you. But with that being said, like, subscribe, and you guys have a lovely rest of your lives.